What's happening, guys? So today I want to talk about knee pain with squatting and how a lot of people claim they can't squat because of knee pain and how they can potentially do some things differently to get to the point where they can start squatting pain free. So stay tuned. Okay, so before we get started, obviously if you have a really significant injury to your knee and something traumatic that's happened to your knee and that's why it's causing pain, then this video is not really for you. You have a legitimate reason why you can't squat and it is what it is. Can't help you with that. Make sure you see a doctor. But for the rest of everybody else who doesn't have anything real significant that's happened and they seem to have a lot of problems with squatting and knee pain, hopefully I can help you out a little bit. So the first thing I see with a lot of people who say that they have sore knees when they squat is the fact that they lead the movement significantly with their knees. They'll actually break and lead the movement down with their knees, and then the hips will come way behind their knees, and this is putting a lot of pressure on your knees. And obviously if you do this and you put a lot of additional pressure on your knees, it's going to create some knee pain in the long run when you're doing this. So there's some argument out there about whether you should break with your hips first, whether you should break at your knees first. You know, personally I believe they should pretty much break at the exact same time, but for a lot of people just thinking about breaking back with the hips first will cause the knees and the hips to break at the same time. And you want to think about your hips coming back and your knees coming out as you start the movement and get on the way down. So thinking about spreading your knees on the descent can really help with knee pain as well, because you're not going to let those knees cave in as much. If you keep them spread out, you drop your hips back, you're going to take some pressure off your knees and you're going to be more efficient through the movement. A lot of knee pain is just making sure that you go through the movement in an efficient manner, and if you're not very efficient with the squat, it can put undue pressure in different areas that it really shouldn't. Another thing that I think contributes to a lot of people's knee pain is the fact that they don't hit depth. You know, a lot of people say, well, if I squat that low, it'll hurt my knees. But the problem is if you're doing half reps and you're only going halfway down and then coming back up, for one, you're putting a lot more pressure on your knees because you're probably loading up more weight than you can do anyway. And for two, you're changing angles in a suboptimal spot. So if you're coming out halfway down and then changing angles and putting the force on your knees to shoot back up again, that's putting a lot of pressure on your knees. So the fact that you're doing half reps instead of full reps can also be a contributing factor. Another thing that I think can help with knee pain, and it's something that's actually helped me in the past, is soft tissue work in your kind of quads or calves area or anywhere that's kind of surrounding your knee joint that has a lot of really tight muscles and trigger points in it. Now, I've been hearing a little bit more frequently lately that foam rolling doesn't really have a place unless it's right before your workout. There's no scientific data that it shows that it's effective, but the problem is that's only basing things on range of motion, and I'm talking about pain here. And for me, it's a pretty big deal. If you can't do the movement pain-free, it's going to be pretty difficult to continue to make progress and to enjoy the movement itself. If you're always in pain, it's going to suck. So I've experienced this in the past. It seems like anytime that I do start to get some knee pain creeping in, it's not frequent, but every once in a while it happens, I'm always able to get rid of it by a little bit of soft tissue work. A lot of times it's usually on the inside of the quad, kind of just above the knee, or just below the knee on the inside of the calf. If I can release these trigger points over time and just do it a little bit every single day, eventually those trigger points will go away and the knee pain just kind of vanishes just like that. So if you have really tight muscles, you might need to start doing a little bit of foam rolling, a little bit of soft tissue work. You can use your hands, you can use in different type of tools you have, and that can also help relieve some of the knee pain. Another thing to take into consideration is your stance. Now, a lot of people like to pigeonhole people into one certain stance and say everything needs to be one certain way. They'll say shoulder width apart, they'll say toes straight ahead, toes pointed out, all these different things, and really a lot of it comes down to personal preference, how you're comfortable. You know, your anatomy can dictate what will be more effective, but playing around with stance can help as well. And a lot of times they'll say a good stance for somebody is when you actually go into the bottom of the motion, it looks like you're kind of sitting in between your legs. Your torso is like sitting down in between your legs, and that's kind of usually going to be a good indicator of a decent squat. So just play around with stance and see if something's a little bit more comfortable, makes it a little bit easier for you, and puts a little bit less pressure, and perhaps that'll help you as well. Now the last thing I want to talk about regarding this is the kind of the myth that your knees cannot travel over your toes. This is not true, and especially for people with really long femurs, you're going to have some forward knee travel over the toes to be able to hit proper depth. Your levers really come into play when it comes to this. So it's not necessarily true that you cannot have any forward travel over your toes. Now the biggest thing is going to be your bar path. If the bar path is not going straight up and down and it's starting to come over your toes, then you're leading the movement too much over your toes and you get this forward lean, which can also create additional stress on the knees. So you want to be able to sit back as much as you can, but you got to remember that anatomy really comes into play with this. So as long as you have a straight bar path and you're hitting proper depth and the movement feels good, I wouldn't worry about if you have a little bit of forward knee travel. That's not necessarily the reason why your knees are hurting. Alright guys, that's all I had for this video. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully if you have some knee pain, you took away some things that can help you start squatting pain-free. If you have any questions at all, as always, feel free to put them in the comments below and I will definitely get back to you, and then I will see you guys in the next video.